Does that make sense? Yeah. So Sankirtan basically means what? Sankirtan means chanting the Lord's name. Now, this can be done either loudly, singing and dancing like you can do on the streets, that is Nagar Sankirtan, or you can do it by chanting. So you chant loudly, loud enough for you to hear and for everybody else to hear, or you sit and you chant it softly so that only you can hear, or you sit and you chant in such a way that only in your mind. All of these are different forms of japa. Of course, it is best if we chant loudly, because then along with us, there are other living entities. So the same ant and the spider in the house is also hearing the vibrations of the holy name, of the Lord's holy names. And so they also, progress. But if that is not possible, that's okay. Sit down and chant quietly. We talk about meditation. Sit down quietly and meditate on the same name, Hare Krishna. Whatever it is, whatever you want to do, bring your mind back to that name. That's all. It's as simple as that. So in Kali Yuga, most simple process. So, yes, Mataji.
Mataji, could you just repeat those 5 things which a grahastha,
Yes.
when like fire, the water, and those 5?
Yeah. So the first is, it's called a kandani. Kandani means, so the kandani is usually used for, it's a mortar. You know how you have the husk in grains?
Mm-hmm.
So you used to pound it and remove the husk, right? So that is the kandani.
Okay.
Okay. Then peshani. Peshani is the grinding stone.
Okay.
The stuff that you use to grind your chutney and stuff, na? Then chulli. Chulli is chulha, your fireplace.
Fire.
Yeah. Then udakumbi. Uda means water.
Okay.
Kumbha. So water pot.
Okay.
Yeah. And the fifth is marjani, broom.
Good. Okay.
So using these 5, in fact, later what I'll do is I'll put these verses out on our Skype.
And where is this stated? Where does this come from?
Now that is the funny bit. I haven't been able to come across that. I think it is the Manusmriti,
Okay.
but I haven't been able to find it. Because I found it quoted on, where did I find it? I found it quoted on Sridhara Swami's, or was it Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the 3rd chapter.
Okay.
So, but the reference to from where it has been taken has not been put down there. So Sridhara Swami quotes it definitely.
All right.
So I haven't been able to find the source yet.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay.
Just one comment about that question.
Yes, Mataji.
I sometimes, and I'd like your comment on it, Mataji. I sometimes use the verse that's just a few verses on, number 27. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament.
Yes.
And when I, sometimes as we're describing, it's unavoidable killing an insect in certain situations. I just think of that verse. I just wonder, is that a bona fide thing to do?
Oh, absolutely. Because, and that especially works because, as it says here, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty. So it all comes back to the duty. Are we doing it because we are very proud of our beautiful home? It's my house. And so I need to keep it clean. Or are we doing it because it's Krishna's house? And so it's my duty to make sure Krishna's temple is always clean, neat. And I don't care that I'm not doing it just because, oh, today my friends are going to visit me. And so I need to show off a spick and span house. So again, it all comes back to, we've been talking about how every single act depends on the consciousness with which we approach that act. So again, this falls back on that. What is the consciousness at that stage? Are we doing it as our duty or not? Does that make sense, Mataji? Am I?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So coming back to verse 21, yesterday we had a little discussion about violence and non-violence, and how it is under no circumstances. There was a question that was thrown up saying, if everybody if in the course of their duty one has to kill, then is the violence caused by a butcher bona fide? Because it's his duty to kill. Okay. So then we worked around that and we came back and we said, in this particular verse, text 21, the word Veda is very, very important because it actually informs the action that one needs to take. Okay. So it says, only one who is in knowledge, knowing that this, meaning the soul, is avinashi, nityam, ajam, avyayam, only he would not be in a position to cause any destruction to that soul. Kam ghatayati hantikam. Okay. So without understanding the nature of the soul, if one's just going off and killing another living entity for sense gratification, then that does not fall under this. Okay, then you are definitely liable for sin. And that actually brings us to an important point which I'd like to make today. And that is, a few years ago, we had a reporter sit in on one of the lectures given by another devotee. And now, you know how somebody walks in halfway through a lecture, picks up bits and pieces of it and walks away. Okay. And that's exactly what this reporter did. So he walked away and he had this article in the Indian News Link which said, the Bhagavad Gita encourages violence. Okay. So I thought it would be a good starting point for our discussions today. If someone came and told you the Bhagavad Gita actually encourages violence, Krishna is telling Arjuna, get up and fight, get up and fight, get up and fight. All he's saying is fight, 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 which means the Bhagavad Gita is encouraging violence. What would your response be?
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's in a context. There is a very big underlying context to it, and it can't just be seen as violence on its own. It's about the dharma, it's about who Arjun is, what is the position, what was the background,
Yes.
and all the reasons that Sri Krishna explains to Arjuna as to why he should take up his bow and arrow and get into this. I think there's a huge context to it. It can't just be simply stated as a statement.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
True, true. Anyone else? Yes, Bhadramataji.
That sometimes there is a place for violence. One has to, if one is faced with violence, then it's not wrong to respond with violence at times. And this is exactly what Mataji was saying. This was the situation between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. It's not as though the Bhagavad Gita promotes violence. It promotes proper action and controlled action and awareness of how one is being and how they are utilizing their violence or their anger, how it's utilized for a dharmic cause.
Yes. Yes, Niyati.
Mataji, I think it's to do with the good winning over the evil, which every other scripture will talk about. I mean, even in the Bible, there is the violence where the crucifixion happens. I would think that would be also called violence, isn't it?
Yes.
But also in the sense that it is more the good that was fighting to get what they deserve. To just looking at the positive rather than the negative. What is the ethic? What's the core of that rather than part and parcel of what you said didn't listen properly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very correct.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes up and says something like that, I would think the first thing to actually tell that person is, do you realize where this is being spoken, the Bhagavad Gita? It is being spoken on a battlefield. It's not being spoken in a drawing room. Okay? Who is it being spoken to? To Arjuna, who is refusing to fight because he's feeling compassion. Because he's looking at all his other dharmas and saying, this is wrong. Fighting is wrong. And why is it being told to him? Why have they actually reached the battlefield? Because the Pandavas have actually tried everything to avoid this war. And in fact, if you look at the first few verses, you will see that even on the battlefield, the war is being instigated not by the Pandavas, but by the Kauravas. So if we look at these, just look at these verses here, okay? So we have Duryodhana coming up and telling his guru, Dronacharya, look at the Pandavas, look at our army. Do you remember all that? He's introducing his army, he's introducing the Pandavas' army, saying so and so people are here, so and so people are there. And then when he starts to feel really low, what he's trying to say is, oh, look, those people are so powerful, and our people, we may not be so powerful. We need to protect Bhishma. And what happens immediately after that? He says, Ayaneshu sarveshu yata bhagam avastitaha Bhishmam eva abhirakshantu bhavantah sarva eva hi. Make sure you protect only Bhishma. Bhishmam eva abhirakshantu. Make sure you protect him. Okay? When all this happens, the next verse says, Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddah pitamahah simhanandam vinadyochaihi shankam dadmau pratapavan. Bhishmadev blew his conch shell. Okay. Now here you have two armies, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Who is the wronged party? Pandavas or Kauravas? Pandavas. Okay. Now, if there are two parties, one who is the wrongdoer and the other who is wronged, who should actually start the fight? The wrongdoer or the one who has been wronged? If somebody has attacked, if somebody has come and said, oh, you are a thief and a liar, what would the next step be? Would that person then pick up a stick and start beating you also? No, because you would be the one saying, what do you think you're saying? Because you would be the one who would jump in to protect yourself, right? But here what do we see? You have the Kauravas and the Pandavas standing facing each other, and you have the Pandavas saying, although they are the ones who have been wronged, saying, really, we shouldn't be fighting. Just give us 5 villages and we'll walk away. And you have the Kauravas saying, no, we want a war. So this is the situation. The Pandavas now have no option. The conch shell for war has already been blown by the opposite army first. There is no turning back. In such a situation, if Arjuna says, oh no, I have to turn back, that is not an option. And that is why Krishna first starts off saying, if you do that, you're only going to face infamy in this world and in the next. Not just in this world, but in the next as well. Why? Because you're running away from your duty as a Kshatriya. So given this scenario, Krishna's call to Arjuna to do his duty as a Kshatriya and fight is absolutely correct. Because again, there can be, and I've read this on the internet where you come across, some weird challenges. Well, if the Kauravas were actually ruling well, why do the Pandavas need to come and take their kingdom back? Let the Kauravas keep ruling. But what are the ethics of a set of rulers who have no qualms about stripping their own sister-in-law naked in public? I mean, that is the lowest anyone can stoop to. How can you expect dharma from somebody who does not blink at doing something like that? And therefore, how can you expect protection and good rulership from somebody like that? Which is where this whole challenge comes in. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does anybody have anything else to add here? Okay. So if not, let's move on to the next verse, which is text 22. Vasamsi jirani yatha vihaya
वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय
navani grinati naroparaणि
नवानि
गृह्णाति नरोपराणि
तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णान्
तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि
अन्यान्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि
अन्यानि संयासि नवानि देहि
वासांसि. Vasam. Vasam means clothes. You know, we have in the Vishnu Sahasranamam, Megha Shyamam Pita Kausheya Vasam. Pita Kausheya Vasam. So Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu is Megha Shyamam. He's blue as the rain cloud. And Pita Kausheya Vasam. Pita yellow. Kausheya silk. Vasam. Wearing clothes which are made of yellow silk. So the same Vasam is here. Huh? Vasamshi. Jirnani. Now, jirna means, you know how clothes, when they become really old, they start to fall apart. You know, they get holes and then you just have to touch them and they'll just fall apart in your hand. So that is jirna, okay? So which is so tattered. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, giving up. So just as naraha, a human being, gives up old tattered clothes and takes on newer ones, navani grihnati, aparani, other new clothes, and just takes on other new clothes. Tatha, in the same way, sharirani vihaya, jirnani, anyani samyati navani dehi, the dehi. Remember yesterday we said deha means body and dehi is one that's sitting in the body. Okay, so the dehi, the soul. So just as a person gives up old clothes and takes on new ones, the soul also gives up old bodies, not body. Here the word is sharirani, which is plural. Okay, so it does not just take up one body. So it gives up a body, takes on another one, gives up that one, takes on yet another one, and then gives up that one. So it's a continuous process. Okay, tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. So if Arjuna were to say, oh, but Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev, all these people, they need their bodies. If even assuming, okay, that the soul is not going to be destroyed, I am going to destroy their body. And if I destroy their body, then how are they going to enjoy themselves? How are they going to see? We all need the body because we want to enjoy ourselves. So how are they going to enjoy themselves? So in response, Krishna says, what use is an old body? An old body which is falling to pieces is of no use to anybody. Just as an old piece of cloth which is falling to pieces is of no use. You're not going to be able to cover your body with it. It's just going to fall apart. So in the same way, what is the use of the soul dragging around a body which is so old and so worn out that it cannot be used by the soul to enjoy itself? So Arjuna, you should actually be happy that they are getting new bodies. Okay, so here Prabhupada makes a couple of very interesting points. He says, the transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the supersoul. The supersoul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. Now, earlier on, remember we had this example which is given in the various Upanishads, Mundaka Upanishad, Kathopanishad, and so on, where you have a tree and you have two birds sitting on the tree. One is the soul and the other is the super soul. The soul bird is busy enjoying the fruits on the tree. And the super soul bird is just sitting and watching. And at that time we said the soul is, always looking for happiness. It's always looking to enjoy itself. And the super soul's always sitting and acting as the witness. Yeah. And when the soul gives up the tendency to enjoy by itself, and turns towards the super soul and starts to listen to the super soul. At that time, the soul gets freed from all its distress. Okay. Now, here it is said that when the soul desires another body, the super soul says, okay, go for it. Okay. Now, why would the soul desire another body? So let's take ourselves, for example. We all have various desires, right? So maybe I have a desire, I wish I could go and see the pyramids in Egypt. Okay. Let's assume that's my one all-consuming desire. And I die tonight. I have a desire which is unfulfilled. And my soul, remember, is still hankering for that. Now the soul will go and look for a body which will allow it to fulfill that desire. And the super soul will say, yep, go for it. Why? Because the super soul is Lord Shri Krishna. He is not going to say, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. Because we all have free will. And our desires are the ones that determine what our next body is going to be. Our actions, our desires, and our thoughts at the last minute of our life. If we are going to be thinking of the Lord, we go back to Him. We attain His nature, as He says. But instead, if we have a number of unfulfilled desires, then the body that we have is quite useless for the soul. Because this body is not going to take the soul to that destination. Which means we come back to again that bird. The bird that's enjoying itself is looking around, it's using all its senses and looking, oh, this fruit I should have, that fruit I should have, I should enjoy this, I should go there, I should do that, right? So the bird is using all, so bird is us. We are using all our senses to gather all kinds of information about everything around us and developing attachments to all of that. And as we develop those attachments increase and the hankering increases. And as the hankering increases, we are creating our next life for ourselves. Okay. And then Prabhupada says, forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from one body to another. So what is the relationship? Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. So we, the jivas, we are tiny particles, fragments of the Lord, and we are his servant. When we forget this, as soon as we forget this, what happens? We forget that he is the master, that everything I do is supposed to be as a loving relationship with him, not for me to enjoy all by myself. See, when we have in our family somebody we love a lot, it could be our child, okay? The mother will never finish off the last cookie, will she? It's usually left for the child. No, my son loves this. I'm going to leave this for them. Right? Why? Because there's so much love, so much attachment. If we can bring that same kind of love and attachment for the Lord, which means everything that we are doing, the mother, everything that she's doing throughout the day is focused on the child. Especially when the child is really little, what happens? When the mother goes to work, even at work, she's thinking of the child. She may be doing her work perfectly, but the child is always there, right there. Look at the clock. Oh, this is the time my baby usually has his feed. I hope the daycare has remembered to feed him. This is the time he's usually going to sleep. I hope he's not crying for me. Right? So if that kind of thought process can be directed towards the Lord, then this doesn't happen. Forgetfulness of the relationship. Which means what? First step is that we need to develop a relationship with the Lord. And remember, right at the beginning, we talked about the 5 kinds of relationships we can have with the Lord. Do you remember what they are? Yeah, who can tell me?
Lover.
Yes, that's the last one.
Oh,
Friend.
parent.
Okay. Parent, friend, yeah.
As parent, friend, devotee.
What? They are all devotees. So,
Bhakta.
yeah, they're all bhaktas.
Oh, this is what I can remember.
Lover,
Conjugal.
Yeah.
Maternal,
Yes.
grandparent,
parent,
Yeah.
and then non-living. It can be a
Dasya.
non-living.
Yeah, okay, Shanta. Not
Yeah.
just non-living, but not
But
interacting too
not
much.
interacting.
Yeah, okay. Shanta. Then
Dasya.
Hanuman.
Dasya.
Yeah.
Dasya.
Dasya.
Exactly.
Dasya.
Yes. So the 5 are Shanta, Dasya,
Sakya.
Sakhya, Vatsalya,
Vatsalya.
Vatsalya and Madhurya. So we need to develop a relationship, which means we need to, initially we may not know where we actually fit in. And that's perfectly fine. So we just continue chanting and we keep serving him in the mood of a servant. Lord, I'm your servant. Accept me. Serve. Till we reach that stage where we actually know what we want to do with him. And of course, that's where a guru comes in and all the rest of it. But the first step is recognizing that the Lord is the master and we are the servant. Start chanting. And whatever we cook in the house, put it in front of him. There's no better way to serve him. If it doesn't have onion and garlic, it's vegetarian, put it in front of him. And if you have Gauranitai at home, the happy dolls, best, because you can form such sweet relationships with them. You know? In fact, we've installed the Gauranitai deities, the happy dolls in so many homes. And people have come back saying, now my children treat them as their brothers, and so every day before going to school, they go and tell them, they come back from school, they come and tell them if they get, bullied in school, the Gauranitai are the first ones to know. Things like that. The whole house changes. Everything just changes when these two walk into the house. So that's the first step. Just start developing a relationship. It could be of friendship, it could be of servitude, it could be as a mother, father, whatever it is. But just get on to it. And the best way to serve is, how when we go to someone's house, what do? I'll bring a plate. right? Same thing with the Lord. Anything I cook, here's your plate, my Lord. Eat. Wonderful relationship. So forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing its position from one tree to another or from one body to another. So the jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do, by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Now here, the words voluntary surrender is very, very important because the Lord is not going to come and put a gun to our head and say, okay, now you got to do what I tell you to do. He will never do that. He will never, ever do that. He gives us free will. It's completely voluntary. Everything in life is voluntary. Our choices are ours. So, voluntary surrender. Okay. And then Prabhupada says, Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. And then Krishna says, anyway, you're only going to be killing their body. Your weapons, you are such a great archer. You have knowledge of so many weapons, but your weapons are not going to be able to touch the soul. So he says, Nainam chindanti shastrani.
Nainam
Nainam
chintanti
chindanti
shastrani.
shastrani.
Nainam dahati pavakaha.
Nainam dahati pavakaha.
Nachainam kledayantyapo.
Na chainam kledayantapyapo.
Na shoshayati marutaha.
Na
Na
shoshayati
shoshayati marutaha.
Now here, nainam means na enam. Enam. Enam means this. Okay, this, the soul. Na enam. Chindanti shastrani. So don't worry, Arjuna. Just because you even use the Brahmastra, which is the most terrible of weapons, it is not even going to touch the soul. The soul cannot be cut into pieces. Nainam dahati pavakaha. The fire cannot burn it. The body can be burned and reduced to ashes, but the soul remains untouched. Na chainam kledayanti apo. Apaha means water. So it's not as if, the body can be soaked in water, and because it gets over soaked, it then rots and falls away. But the soul is not going to rot away. The soul remains untouched. Na shoshayati marutaha. The wind will not dry it. Now remember, our body is made up of the 5 elements, right? So what are the 5 elements?
Akasha, water,
Fire, water,
and wind,
ether.
earth.
Earth, yes. Earth, air, fire, water, ether, right? So if you look here, fire cannot touch, water cannot touch, wind cannot touch. Shastra, made of earth, minerals, cannot touch. Akasha is space, and it's got nothing to do with the soul. Plus, there is also the factor of time, isn't it? We see in material world that time causes everything to fall apart. Whether it's a huge building, a monument, or a human body, relationships, everything is subject to time. But time does not touch the soul. So your elements, your 5 elements don't touch the soul. Plus, time itself doesn't touch the soul. Yeah. So the soul is not going to be harmed in any way. And then in the next verse, he says, Achedyoyam adahyoyam.
Achetoyam
Doyam
Akledyo shoshya evacha.
अक्लेद्यो शोषयेव च
Nitya sarvagatasthanur.
नित्यसर्वगतस्थाणुः
Achaloyam sanatanaha.
अचलोऽयं सनातनः
Now the same thing the Lord repeats again. Achedyaha ayam. Ayam means he, this one. Okay. So this soul is achedyaha. You cannot put, in Hindi, we say na ched karna, which means make a hole or push something into it to break it. So the soul cannot be tampered with. Okay, it's bulletproof. Achedyo ayam. Adahyo yam. Okay, it is adahya. It cannot be burned. Akledyaha. It cannot fall apart in water. Ashoshya. It cannot be dried by the wind. Nityaha. Nityaha means everlasting. Yeah. Sarvagataha. Sarvagataha means all pervading, but it also means that it has gone everywhere. Sarvagataha. It has gone everywhere. Gone everywhere means the soul goes into so many different kinds of bodies. We say na 84 lakh yoni. Right? So what does 84 lakh yoni mean?
8.4 million.
8.4 million. Thank you. The million part was the 8.4 million bodies the soul goes through. Okay. So it has gone everywhere. Sarvagataha. And it is sthanuhu. So whether it goes into the body of a ladybug, or it goes into the body of a lady, or it goes into a body of a dog or a cat or anything, the soul remains the same. It's thanuhu. It is unchanging. It is achalaha. It's immovable. Okay? Immovable means it is stable. Now basically, sthanuhu and achalaha mean the same. Okay? And it is sanatana. It is eternal. So in this verse, most of these words, okay, nityaha, sthanuhu, achalaha, sanatanaha, they all mean the same, meaning it is eternal. There is no change. It does not become old. It does not become small. It does not become big. Nothing happens to the soul. The soul remains as it is. And then verse 25, Actually, we'll do verse 25 next time, because verse 25 forms the verse 25 is the last verse amongst that whole set where the Lord is describing the soul. Okay, so we'll do verse 25, and we'll also come back and see the purports for 24 and 23 next time. Okay, so in the meantime, can I request you all to please read through the purports? Yeah, and if we have any questions, to bring them up. Yeah, okay. Any questions so far? Or any comments or any? Okay, okay. Then thank you so very much. Bahu bahu dhanyawad.
Thank you. Hare Krishna
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Amish.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.